Okay, so if you are an independent rapper and you're kind of new to mixing, EQing and all of those kinds of good things, then you might find EQing your vocals to be a bit of a hassle. You might not know where to go, which points to actually go and check out in the vocal frequency spectrum. So I'm going to just give you that game today, and I'm going to show you the 3 main spots that you need to check out when it comes to EQing your rap vocals. That's going to help your vocals to be cleaner, it's going to help your vocals to sound more present, and it will help your vocals to cut through the mix. Okay, so let's jump in. First of all, the first EQ point for rap vocals is going to be the low frequencies. What you want to do is you want to get rid of all the frequencies below about 70 to about 80 hertz. Okay, everything below that frequency range is usually not needed. What you'll find on mixing consoles is they've got this thing in the EQ section. There's this thing called a high pass filter. Sometimes it's actually a switch, you know, so you just activate that switch and they've already decided the frequency, and usually it's kind of in that 70 to 80 hertz range. You'll find this on a lot of audio interfaces as well, and again you'll usually find it to be in that 70 to 80 hertz range. So 70 to 80 hertz is a safe spot. If you're gonna go further up and make it 100 hertz or something like that, then you are running the risk of taking too much out of your vocal, so you definitely don't want to do that. Rather stick to about 70 to 80 hertz, because that's going to be a safe spot where you know you're not taking out too much and you know you're getting rid of all the lows that you don't really need. Okay, so I'm going to just activate this over here, and usually what you want to do is you want to pull this up to about the highest slope that it has. I usually go with a steep slope. You don't need to go with a steep slope. This is just how I was taught in recording sessions while I was assisting. The engineer would tell me go 24 dBs per octave. So that's just kind of what I'm used to. So then I will generally go for around 75 hertz, and you will usually be safe. Even if you don't listen to it, you will usually be safe for at 75 hertz. Let's switch this off though, and then let's listen to the vocal, and then I'll just switch it on and off, and let's hear if there is any change in the vocal. Okay, so here we go.
Ain't no other way, either hustle or get played. Ain't no time to sit around, nigga. Work hard every day. Here I do this for myself. Here I do this for the fam. I won't die a broke, nigga. Think it's time to make a plan. There ain't no other way, either hustle or get played. Ain't no time to sit around, nigga. Work hard every day. Here I do this for myself.
Okay, so what you can definitely hear is that when this vocal was recorded, there was a bit of what we call plosives that was recorded onto this track. So the plosives is when the artist says P. Any word that has a P in it seems to just pop out a bit more. So I'm gonna play this first section of the vocal because I think there's a plosive in there somewhere. I'm gonna play it without the filter. You can hear what that pop sounds like without the filter on, and then I will switch on the filter and you can hear what it does to that P sound. Okay, so here it goes without any filtering.
Ain't no other way, either hustle or get played. Ain't no time to ain't no other way, either hustle or get played. Ain't no other way, either hustle or get played. Ain't no time, ain't no other way, either hustle or get played.
To me, it's clear that the P, the plosive, has been brought down in level. It's not as in your face anymore, and that's gonna help you out in terms of getting a cleaner vocal that is not distracting to the listener but just sounds natural. Okay, so this is gonna be your typical spot that you're gonna want to work on first. Okay, and this example of the plosive is very useful because, you know, a lot of times when you are starting out with your rap career, you have recordings that have those types of sounds in, so you can use this high pass filter to just bring the level of those frequencies down a bit so that it's not so in your face. So that's the first EQ point I suggest that you go to for a rap vocal, is just get rid of all that noise at the bottom end from about 70 to about 80 hertz and down. Just use a high pass filter and just get rid of all of that. Okay, The second point that I want to look at is usually going to be the low mids, which is about from 200 Hz to around 500 Hz. Okay, now what you're going to find in that range is oftentimes it has this weird effect of almost like sounding like you pulled a blanket over a speaker and then you listening to music through the speaker, but it's playing through the blanket. So there's this dullness that tends to live in that range of about 200 Hz to about 500 Hz, and generally you want to go find where that is the most intense, and then you want to just dial that back in and just cut it a bit so that it doesn't interfere later in the process. Okay, when I mention later in the process, what I'm really talking about is as you mix your vocal, every rap vocal is going to get compressed, usually multiple times. Okay, so once that rap vocal gets compressed, it starts adding level, right? Every compressor is probably going to also add level. So as that vocal gets louder, all those frequencies that might sound okay now become a problem later. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to just equalize those levels of those frequencies that might be problem areas later, so that when you get to the level raising part of your vocal mix, you don't have those issues to deal with. Okay, so let's get into this frequency point. Like I said, this is frequency point number 2. Anywhere from about 200 Hz all the way to about 500 Hz is probably going to be what you are looking at. Okay, so we're gonna go down to 200. We're going to make this relatively narrow, and then we're just gonna boost over here, and then we're gonna sweep. So let's listen.
Ain't no other way, either hustle or get played. Ain't no time to sit around, nigga. Work hard every day. Here I do this for myself. Here I do this for the fam. I won't die a broke, nigga. Think it's time to make a plan. There ain't no other way, either hustle or get played. Ain't no time to sit around, nigga. Work hard every day. Here I do this for myself. Here I do this for the fam. I won't die a broke, nigga. Think it's time to make a plan. There ain't no other way, either hustle or get played. Ain't no time to sit around, nigga. Work hard every day. Here I do this for myself. Here I do this for the fam. I won't die a broke, nigga. Think it's time to make a plan. There ain't no other way, either hustle or get played.
Okay, so I found that spot to be the spot that bothered me the most. The vocal just seemed to get more dull when I was in that spot. It was just the one that stood out the most. So that's the spot that I decided on this specific rap vocal to pull down. You saw I went all the way up to 500 because I'm looking for other spots along the way. So maybe if I found another spot, I would activate a different EQ band and I would go and pull down that spot as well. Okay, so that's just something to keep in mind. So you just want to go look from about 200 Hz to about 500 Hz and hear what's going on down there. And then when you hear that point where it just sounds like the vocal is getting too muddy, too cloudy, that's the spot where you just want to pull it down a bit. Now notice that I did not do this. Okay, I'm going to activate this. Notice I didn't do this. Okay, you never want to do that because then you are basically transforming that vocal into something that's going to be unrecognizable. You don't want to cut so much that you don't recognize the vocal anymore. You know, as a new engineer, as a young engineer, I would go in and I would show off all these EQ tricks that I had, and I would mix the vocal and use every single EQ trick that I knew, and then the artist would come in and listen to the mix and the artist would say, who is that? And that would just like crush me because I thought I did such a great job, but I made the vocal sound so unnatural because I did so much. So keep that in mind when you are mixing your own vocal. Keep that in mind when you are new to mixing. Don't do a lot. Even if you can't hear what you are doing, sometimes less is really the best option because it is safer. You know, it is safer because you don't trust your own hearing yet. So rather do less. You know, if you are cutting to the point where you can actually hear the cut, if you are new to mixing, then maybe that is too much. Okay, so cut not so that you can hear there's definitely been a cut cut just so that you know that you've lowered that frequency point and that it's going to be less of a problem later. Okay, don't cut to actually hear the cut. So now we've got the low frequencies. That's point number one that you need to check out with your rap vocal. Point number two, we've got the low mids from about 200 Hz to about 500 Hz. That's point number two that you need to check out with your rap vocal. And then point number three that you need to check out on your EQ is going to be from about 2000 Hz or 2 kilohertz up until about 5 kilohertz. That's going to be the next spot that you definitely need to pay attention to on your rap vocal. The reason being, that spot is where a lot of ringing and harshness is going to show up in the vocal. For some reason, the harshness shows up in that range, and if you don't remove some of that harshness now, as I said, the vocal is going to get louder, so later that vocal might sound harsh. So just think of it this way. The vocal gets compressed as you are busy recording, okay? Even if it doesn't get compressed when you're busy recording, it gets compressed as you're busy mixing. In order for the vocal to compete with the actual stereo beat, what's going to happen? The vocal is going to have to be turned up, so that compression is going to add level. And then at the end, when you're busy mastering, you're going to have to turn up the whole song, which includes the vocal. So you're going to turn that vocal up again when you're busy mastering. And so that frequency is not a problem now, but later that harshness might actually become an issue and you can hear it and it's not pleasant to listen to. Okay, so from about 2 kilohertz up until about 5 kilohertz, let's jump in and let's listen and find where that harshness lives. Okay.
Ain't no other way, either hustle or get play. Ain't no time to sit around, nigga. Work hard every day. Here I do this for myself. Here I do this for the fam. I won't die a broke, nigga. Think it's time to make a plan. There ain't no other way, either hustle or get play. Ain't no time to sit around, nigga. Work hard every day. Here I do this for myself. Here I do this for the fam. I won't die a broke, nigga. Think it's time to make a plan. There ain't no other way, either hustle or get play. Ain't no time to sit around, nigga. Work hard every day. Here I do this for myself. Here I do this for the fam. I won't die a broke, nigga. Think it's time to make a plan.
Okay, so I've already identified two spots where I feel like there's too much going on in terms of the high-mid range. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this one and I'm going to see if I can get it up to about 260 something, because that's where the first one was. And this one is at about almost 4 kilohertz. So those two spots I basically just want to make softer by a few dB, not a lot, not a lot. Okay, so that's going to give you a much cleaner sound on your rap vocal, and later when you are making that vocal louder and you're squeezing it a bit with that compressor, those frequencies will not pierce your ear. So you definitely want to check out that spot on your rap vocal as well. So let's just listen to everything bypassed and switch it on and off again a couple times. And as I said earlier, you might not hear these adjustments on the EQ. That is not an issue. If you are still learning, then the fact that you cannot hear these small adjustments is not a big deal. You are learning, okay? But what you know for a fact is that you have made those harsh frequencies softer, and that is really all that matters. So I'm just gonna let it play for a few loops and then just bypass it on and off, and you can just check out what we have so far.
Ain't no other way, either hustle or get play. Ain't no time to sit around, nigga. Work hard every day. Here I do this for myself. Here I do this for the fam. I won't die a broke, nigga. Think it's time to make a plan. There ain't no other way, either hustle or get play. Ain't no time to sit around, nigga. Work hard every day. Here I do this for myself. Here I do this for the fam. I won't die a broke, nigga. Think it's time to make a plan. There ain't no other way, either hustle or get play. Ain't no time to sit around, nigga. Work hard every day. Here I do this for myself. Here I do this for the fam. I won't die a broke, nigga. Think it's time to make a plan.
So there we have a nicely cleaned up rap vocal, and that vocal is now able to cut through the mix without it being harsh, because we've cleaned up that harshness. It also does not have the dullness, that blanket sound that you typically get in the low mid range, and all the noise, the rumble, the junk from around 70 hertz down has also been removed. So that is definitely going to be the 3 main EQ points that I tell all of my students to just go and look at. As you do this over and over and over, you start noticing that those frequency spots seems to just come up every single time as problem areas. So in your next rap vocal, definitely go and look at those EQ spots. Okay, so a quick message for all the rappers out there. If you are a rapper and you're trying to get a more consistent sound with your vocal mixes, what I have for you is a free vocal mixing checklist of all the things that I go through while I'm busy mixing a rap vocal. And you can basically just use that checklist and make sure that you've touched every single thing that you need to touch on to get that pro sound for your rap vocals. Okay, so the link in the description will take you to the page that you need to go to. Then you can go get that free rap vocal mixing checklist. So I hope you've learned something. Once again, this is HIDEAF over here, and I'll talk to you in the next video.